What's up, guys? My name's Dale. Today I'm going to show you how to tie a twitching jig. It's pretty simple, honestly. There's a lot of different ways to do it. This is just like a pattern I like to run. But I'm going to be doing a orange and yellow sort of pattern. I'll go ahead and show you what we need here. We're going to need... I like ½ ounce. I'm going to go with a ½ ounce jig head. Then we're going to go with I think that's a 4/0 hook. We're also gonna do some red thread. I'm gonna use some orange, black, and yellow rabbit fur for the body. Orange zonker for the tail, and some flash. Alright, we're also going to use some rubber legs just to add some extra action. So I got some orange and black rubber legs we'll add to it. What I'm going to do is take my jig head and get it in the vise here. I by no means am any sort of expert at doing this. Just kind of learn as I go. Watch YouTube videos, all that kind of stuff. Get bored waiting for the weekends to go fishing, so gotta do something fishy, right? Alright. Next, what I like to do, I'll get my thread and just start your base here. Just go around a good amount of times. I don't like to do too much right at the very head here on my wraps, just because as I go to tying it in and kind of finish off the jig, I like to have it kind of a slim look instead of really bulky right at the head. Looks a little bit cleaner, I think. Just my opinion. So after you got a good bed wrapped on there, you're gonna go ahead and take your scissors. You're just going to snip that excess piece off. Next thing I like to do is add some flash. I don't add crazy amount, but I do get some. So let's see, I'm going to take some red, because I want to do this a red and orange pattern, so I'm going to do kind of the same. I'm going to take... Can't really see that well, but 4, 5, 6 maybe strands. Slip them off. I'm sure there's tons of different ways to put it on your jig here, but what I like to do is I just take it and I wrap it around my thread about halfway, just like that, and I just kind of hold it in place and wrap around it a few times. Make sure you wrap over it once you lay it, instead of just laying it and wrapping backwards. If you do that, you'll get it kind of falling back on you and just a little bit harder to work with. Next thing I like to do, though, is let's get the zonker out for the tail. And these are definitely a little long for the flash. Once I get my tail on, I like to trim those down just maybe about an inch, maybe a ½ inch shorter than my tail is. So once I get my tail on, I'll kind of know how exactly long I want those. And again, guys, like I said, I'm no expert. I kind of just do this all on my own, so if I'm doing something wrong or something you're not necessarily supposed to do, I don't really care. These work for me. I've caught fish on these jigs, so if you have constructive criticism, I'm always down to hear it. You just wrap that. I've had a few tails come off my jigs before, so I wasn't sure if it was because it was wet and just twitching them too much and the skin got wet and broke, or I didn't tie them down very good. So I really kind of cinch these guys down on here. I'll go all the way back up, back down. And then you really don't have to do this. This is probably overkill, but just like to take a little bit of head cement, and then I just place it kind of on where I wrapped, just kind of ensure, hopefully, that tail's not gonna have any problems with fishing. So I wrap it up a good few more times to really get that glue in there. And then, I'm at a good point here. This all seems secure. I'm gonna go ahead and trim my flash back a bit now. I want my tail going out to about here. And just a bit shorter than that. Perfect. And I like my tails maybe about 2 inches from my hook, maybe 1.5 inches, an inch, anywhere in that range. Try not to make them too long, because if you do that, you usually have problems with it wrapping around your hook and when it's fishing, and just less time in the water for you. Alright, I'm gonna take my body material, cross-cut rabbit strips. And I'm just gonna lay it with the fur, so the fur wants to go towards the tail and not towards the jig head. I start kind of right where my tail goes into the thread there onto the jig head. And same thing with this one. I've had first few jigs I've ever tied really kind of come apart. So I'm just a little bit paranoid. I like to really cinch this down good. And after I do that again, I'm going to add just the tiniest bit, not even a half a drop. The tiniest little bit you can get on your little tool. Just to kind of cover it, so you can get that wet just a little bit. And some guys probably will say that's overkill, but it makes me feel confident when I'm fishing, so that's all that really matters to me. Next thing I'm going to do, we're just going to wrap. And when you do that, you're going to want to, as much as you can, palmer all this hair and the rabbit fur forward. Go on there. Once I get, I'd say, probably about 3/4 down, I'm going to go ahead and add my rubber legs. And I like to do that pretty much just by wrapping around this body material that I have. Okay, so now I'm at a good point. I'll go ahead and wrap the legs on. What I like to do is, I should have my legs pre-cut, bad on me, but I get, you know, maybe 5 or 6 legs in here, or strips. And I'm just holding this fur so it stays tight. I should have had these cut and ready so I wouldn't have to fuss with this right now, but I did. That's another thing too I found is when you're tying jigs, it helps to get everything out for the jig you're gonna tie. At least for me. Get it out and ready, kind of set out, so you don't, when you're tying a jig, you don't have to go back and look for stuff or fiddle with stuff. You just have everything ready to go and throw it together. And all I'm doing there is just kind of blowing it so the fur stays palmered forward when I'm wrapping this. don't want it wrapping backwards and then me wrapping over it. Wait, those are on. Like I did, I just kind of like with the flash, but instead of wrapping it around my thread, I wrap it around the body hair. And then I just kind of put a couple more wraps on the body hair to finish it out. Check back here, make sure it's all covered well, which it is. Now you got a couple wraps in. Kind of want to be careful, find where you want to wrap. You don't want to wrap all the fur, some fur facing backwards. Again, I'm just blowing all that fur forward so I can spin my thread over it without it wrapping back on itself. And when you cut that hair off, be really careful you don't cut off your thread that's hanging there. I tell you, that's one of the most frustrating things I've encountered so far while learning to tie my own jigs is you'll do that, accidentally clip the thread, and the thread falls, and then you either got to restart or just find a way to wrap some new thread back over what you got. And I go kind of tight, but I don't have, like, you don't have to reef on it when you do this. Follow the knots and everything that you're putting in there. And on the wraps that you go over itself, it'll stay. I'm just making sure it looks nice and clean, like I said. I don't have tons of extra stuff at the body. It's nice and slim there. That's kind of how I like them. For the last steps, you can do whatever. You can half hitch it, you can just cut it off, put some cement on it, you can whip finish it, which is what I'm gonna do. Just take a little tool here, and just go ahead and wrap it around. I don't really count, I just do, I don't know, good amount till I feel like it's good. Then I will clip this off at the base. Boom. Then there you have the jig, just for good measure. I'm gonna add some head cement. Never a bad idea, but you need to be very careful when you do it to make sure you're not getting the cement on any of the fur, which is gonna screw up the action. Just do a very light coating. You don't need to slob it on there. Just enough so it can kind of sink down to that thread. And one thing I have noticed, guys, is I'm using just this cement right here. And one thing I did notice with it is after a few uses with it, I keep the cap on and then take it off to put the stuff on, put it right back on. But the stuff will start to kind of thicken up, like kind of set up on you a little bit, which makes it a little bit harder to work with and for it to soak into the thread. So they're really cheap, maybe $2-3 a piece for these. So have a few laying around if you're gonna tie some jigs. But yeah, here you have it. Call this the pizza jig. Orange, yellow, black, some of them legs. It's really nice action. Sometimes I'll throw a little bit of marabou up here, but for the most part, that's it right there.